One of the most useful things that I've learned over the years about the guitar is how to connect all of the patterns together and how chord shapes are related to scale shapes and how you can use them as springboards towards soloing, improvisation, creating interesting parts, and everything else involved in being a guitar player. So what I want to do today is just take a basic chord that, if you're watching this, I'm sure you already know, just a basic bar chord, and build a progressive exercise that you can practice off of this bar chord shape to help you hopefully map out the fretboard a little better in your mind. This is going to connect with some of the ideas that I've talked about before regarding what I call the big three triad shapes. So I will offer a little bit of a description of a bit of that idea in this lesson, but mainly I'm just going to try to help you connect a basic bar chord with some shapes that you can use to just kind of spring off into solos and parts that can bring you across the neck into new places, so that hopefully you can find your way better in over a specific chord, and in this case a major chord. So let's jump in. So we're going to begin here at a regular old type 1 G major bar chord. And this is going to connect to another idea that I've talked about in previous lessons, which is pentatonic shapes, where we're using alternating patterns of 3 notes on one string and 2 notes on the next string to travel not only vertically across the fretboard, but also horizontally. And those shapes are extremely useful. I'll do a quick review here just of what we're going to cover in this exercise. So here's my G major bar chord. Here's my G on the 6th string. If I play 3 notes of the major pentatonic on the 6th string, I've got 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret. And I'm sliding with my 3rd finger from 5th to 7th. And then I'm in position right here, 5th fret, 7th fret on the 5th string. So that's my 5 notes of the pentatonic scale. And then up here I've got a G again. So in these 3-2 shapes, I get to just repeat the pattern that I did before. That's why these are part of the reason why these are really great shapes for soloing. So my pattern starting from here, 5th fret on the 4th string, is the same finger pattern that I played on the 6th and 5th string. Those are my 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the pentatonic scale. And if I was going to continue the scale up, I would shift over 1 fret, just because 2nd and 3rd string are tuned to a major 3rd instead of a perfect 4th, which is a half step closer. So I always end up having to shift when I get to that 2nd string. But if I was going to continue that pattern, I would do the same exact finger pattern here that I did on the previous 2 octaves. So the whole shape is this. We're not going to use all those notes at the top for this exercise, but what we are going to do is we're going to travel up, then we're going to stay here in this position to land on this chord here. And this connects us to one of the big 3 shapes that I talk about. This one is a C shape. So I've got all the closest triad notes here in this big shape here. If I take the top 4 strings, I get this shape, where I'm on the 9th fret, 4th string, 7th fret, 3rd string, 8th fret, 2nd string, and my first finger is barred, so I can also hit the 7th fret on the 1st string. So what we're going to do is connect this shape up to this shape. And to connect this bar chord here to the big 3 shapes, this is 5 out of the 6 notes from the first inversion big 3 shape. So the bar chord just takes this 3rd out of the big 3 shape and goes down to the root instead, creating a 5th here, skipping 1 chord tone. And the big 3 shapes are all the closest possible intervals within a triad shape across all 6 strings. That's why I call them the big 3. There's 3 of them. But our bar chord, it helps to know that this 5 out of these 6 notes of a regular bar chord are straight out of that big 3 shape. So what we're going to do is add some rhythm to this and play the chord and then do a little scale run. Then we're going to play the chord again, do another scale run that goes a little further up, and continue that up until we've kind of constructed this exercise that gives us some rhythm and some patterns with the scale in a musical sort of way. So I'm going to start by strumming the G chord, down, up, but I'm going to do down on the 1, then I'm going to wait till the last 16th note of the beat, so 1 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. So that'd be a good place to start, is just try that. 4, 1 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and that's step 1. Then we're going to go back, strum again, and then keep going, but we're going to go a little farther this time. So part 2, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2, 3. So first and second part. First part. 4, 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 2 E. So that's parts 1 and 2. Then we're going to extend it a little further. And so each time I'm coming back and playing this chord so that I can kind of reposition myself at the beginning of this pattern. And the thing that I get out of this is whenever I need to play a chord, I have an immediate pattern right next to it where I can jump into and play soloing ideas, or I can play parts based on this. The chord gives me a really strong home base from which I can really anchor myself in order to come up with new ideas and soloing ideas. Oftentimes I will play something based on this, but I won't necessarily play the chord. I maybe just use that as kind of a mental anchor to know where I can move to, and then I'm kind of off to the races once I get to one of these shapes. The idea being that we have these anchor shapes that keep us in patterns that we understand, we feel comfortable with when we're soloing, so we don't get lost on the fretboard, because that can happen for sure. I'm sure you've experienced that when you're soloing, all of a sudden you're somewhere and you're like, wait a minute, I don't know where I am or where to go. If you've ever experienced that, I think this could help you. So part 1 and 2 again. Part 2. In part 3, we're going to do the same thing, except when we get to this note, we're just going to add these 2 notes from the chord. So part 3 goes like this. So parts 1, 2, and 3 together. part 4, we're not going to go back to this G chord. We're actually just going to continue in this position here. So this chord is the one I showed earlier. We've got 9th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret, and then 9th fret up here. We're going to use that for the beginning of part 4. So one more time, parts 1 through 3. Then part 4, we're going to continue up this arpeggio. This is going to kind of resolve our exercise with a little pentatonic scale run with a chord at the beginning. This is a G chord again. I'm strumming the full chord through to the first string, and then on the first string I'm just playing with my pinky, the 10th fret. So, and then my pinky again, 10th fret of the second string, and then back to this note that I'm holding in the chord, and then back to the pentatonic scale. So part 4. One more time. So that's part 4, and notice how it kind of concludes. It kind of feels like it's wrapping up. So that's the whole exercise. And I'll play the whole thing slowly, and then I'll play it a little faster so you can hear what it sounds like at a bit of a more brisk tempo. So 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. One time a little bit faster. And you know what this does is just connects your knowledge of the fretboard from voicing up here to a common chord voicing that you know. And you can do this anywhere. This idea on the top is a nice little run that you can do on a major chord. Here I'm on A major now since I moved the whole thing up a whole step. But this shape works really well over, it's the same exact shape you would use for a minor 7. In this case, F sharp minor 7. That's the relative minor of this chord, A. But all of these notes that I'm playing work really well over that chord too. So there's multiple applications of this idea. But I could go. That's in B flat. You know, you can do obviously any key. This hopefully gives you an anchor to have some immediate ideas at your fingertips when you're playing, anytime you're playing this chord here. No matter what key you're in. take this idea and come up with some of your own patterns on it. Change the rhythm a little bit. You could do it in a million different ways. And it is a lot of fun, and this is just kind of a really nice pathway to burn into your memory. A lot of learning guitar for me was just finding these pathways that are there on the guitar and that I can easily grasp onto. And that way, when I'm playing a familiar shape, I don't have to think about how can I get up here? You know, how can I get to a new position? And what notes can I play? I've already figured out these little pathways, these little ways of traveling between areas that become automatic. So if I'm playing rhythm in a song and it's time for me to take a solo, and I'm here, I can just jump into this next position. And I don't really have to think about it because those patterns are really ingrained in my mind. And if you practice this way where you're connecting chord shapes to scale patterns, that'll happen for you too. It takes a little work, but the more you kind of work exercises like this, the more easily those patterns are just going to come out into your playing. So one more thing before we wrap up for this video, I just want to mention that these 3/2 shapes lend themselves really nicely to double stops, which is something I've talked about before. I have a lesson where I talk specifically about 3/2 shapes and how you can make double stops out of them. There's two really easy places in each octave to do this. It's where you have the 5th on top, which is here 5th fret, 5th string, and you just hold a perfect 4th, and then you hammer on. So that perfect 4th would be the 5th fret on the 5th and 6th string. You play those together, and then you just hammer on into that next note of the scale, the 3rd. That's one place, and then the other place would be with the root on top. So you could do some kind of pattern, some kind of variation on this exercise that I showed, adding some double stops. And that works in the next octave as well. It's one nice thing about this chord shape is that we have that double stop there and that one. Get those really rich, great guitar licks that come from those double stop patterns, which really, once you get this under your fingers, those 3/2 shapes and some of these patterns, they really are pretty easy as long as you're pretty good at barring and hammer-ons. So practice this along with the full exercise that I did. Practice just this one, just the part 4, just that first part of it, the first half of part 4. Because getting familiar with that is just a really great melodic pattern. You can of course move it anywhere. And it sounds great. Actually a good exercise too. Just going up a half step. You can always resolve back to that bar chord. So that's it for this video. I just wanted to give you something interesting to practice that is musical and can just translate itself hopefully very quickly into your playing in a way that you can utilize all the time. Because these bar chords, I end up playing them a lot. There's tons of other voicings that you can use, but the bar chords have a great sound on guitar. So I end up using them, especially when I'm in a situation where maybe there's not a keyboard playing or there's not another guitar. They have a very full sound versus, say, just some of the smaller voicings. Like if I'm playing that can sound really nice, but also sometimes I want that full bar chord sound. So there's a lot you can do by using those as kind of a springboard and an anchor point like I was talking about. And so I'm hoping that that will be something that's useful for you. I would suggest practicing it and spending some time around these patterns. Just do it slowly and try to get used to these pathways so that you can move both vertically and horizontally. And that's a theme that I come back to a lot because those are the two dimensions upon which guitar playing is based. You can move this way across the strings or you can move this way. And the 3/2 shapes and the exercise that we did today are really great ways to combine those two elements together so that you don't get stuck into a single vertical shape, which I think is a pretty common problem that people express. They get stuck into a certain area and they don't know how to break out of it. So by traveling horizontally as well as vertically, you can break out of some of those boxes that you might be stuck in. And bringing it back to a chord shape that you know well can just really help ground your understanding of this concept and give you some new areas to play with. So until next time, practice hard and remember to enjoy the journey. And you can access a free PDF of the visuals that I included in this lesson at practicemakesbettermusic.com. If you're viewing this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description. Bye-bye.